Semifinal number 1 is in the books, and we know one team who will be playing for a national championship. They're colored garnet. They are Swarthmore. They had a very good game and caused Christopher Newport to have a very bad game on the shooting side of things. So captains played well. Hats off to them, to say the least. Unfortunately, Marcus Carter's 125th career game comes to a close for his season and his career. I'm Dave McHugh, Bob Quillman, Pat Coleman. I'll be here for the first segment. Then I'll let these guys take it the rest of the way. Quick recap of this first one. Swarthmore shot the average. They blocked a lot of shots. They went inside in the second half. Didn't necessarily use the outside game unless they had to. And they put the captains on the back foot despite a really impressive comeback in the second half. It was actually a really good game and a bunch of X's and O's going on in that one.
Yeah, I thought Christopher Newport did a good job of making it difficult on Swarthmore, but boy, are the Garnet a good basketball team. I mean, they are a complete team. They have great size. They have great depth. They have great guard play. They have everything you need to win a national championship, and I can't tell you how impressed I am with Swarthmore. And I think they're going to be very difficult to beat tomorrow, whoever comes out of this second game.
Yeah, I was really impressed by the Garnet. You talked in the last segment of the pregame, Bob, about this game needing to be kind of an ugly, sort of messy game, going back and forth, maybe a little sloppy, maybe a little helter-skelter, in order for CNU to get in the game, and that's exactly what we got coming out of the gate after the halftime.
It did. For about, the first 6-7 minutes of the second half, CNU did a great job of, again, kind of mucking the game up as we talked about earlier. They made it kind of a little bit sloppy, a little bit ragtag. They got right back in the game, got it tied. But from that point, Swarthmore just so composed, and they have so many weapons. And I'm just impressed with their versatility. So many big guys that can get to the basket. I just think they have a lot of difficult matchups for any team in Division III.
Yeah, I think when we have talked about Odell and Schaefer over the course of the last week or so and previously in the season, we talk about them, we think about them on offense. And these guys combined for 9 blocked shots, and, you know, frankly, no cheap block shots in that in that bunch. They were emphatic.
And 9 block shots and a lot of other contested shots.
Yeah.
They know how to get their hands in the right spot without making body contact. They know how to close a gap if they need to. But I'm also impressed with how they rebounded. Neither team gave up a lot of offensive rebounds in this game whatsoever. But everybody found ways to be where shots were, and occasional offensive rebounds were huge. Hold out the one late where Ingram's shot fell short as the shot clock was expiring, and Schaefer's like, it's going to fall over here, I'm going to grab it and put it back in.
I was pretty sure that was an assist.
I was wondering if they might call that an assist.
They did a great job of rebounding the basketball. And defensively, I just thought they were so sound the entire game. They allowed some dribble penetration because they knew that they had rim protectors.
Yeah,
they got guys back there who just time after time would block the ball out of bounds. And I just thought that they did such a good job of staying in front of their man, letting the dribble drive come to them, and then swatting it away.
And how many times did Christopher Newport think Swarthmore was going to bail out, and Swarthmore stayed home and stayed in the spot?
Time and time again. It seemed like that there'd be dribble penetration, an easy layup coming, no dice.
Right. The other thing I found interesting, Wiley didn't have a great game. He struggled a little bit, especially in the first half with his shot. He didn't play horribly, don't get me wrong. He wasn't completely on.
Yeah.
But he had a couple moments, more than a couple. He had quite a few moments in the second half where he hit the accelerator, found a way to get to the basket, and on one occasion, clearly no defensive communication because they cleared out for him.
Yeah.
But he had a couple shots in that second half you could see just absolutely deflated the captains.
I think you're talking about the one left-handed layup with 4:40 to go, put him up by 9.
That's where they cleared out, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He hit that deep 3 with about 2.5 to go to make it a 9-point game once again. But one thing I really liked about CNU at that point is both times they came back with quick answers, really quick shots on the other end, and made this a game up until the closing seconds.
This was a game. It was I believe it was a 3-point game when there was a very big sequence. CNU goes to the basket, dishes it off, looks like an open layup's coming.
Yeah.
Block shot goes the other way. for a three.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the pivotal moment in the ball game where you felt like, okay, Swarthmore's weathered the storm and they're going to win this basketball game. But I agree.
Interesting. Brendan Gulick, my partner, had the same thought. He came back to that exact sequence.
And I think that the three made it 8, I believe.
I believe you're right.
It was like a 5-point swing the way that whole thing felt. But getting back to your point, Dave, Cam Wiley, I agree. Maybe not his best game, but I thought he had a good game and he played well when it mattered.
I just mean shooting-wise, he was a little off. You're right.
Yeah, 7 of 17 from the floor, 1 of 3 from downtown, 15 points.
And that 1 of 3 was,
was that
great
big
shot in the corner where Schaefer is dribbling, baits Carter to come down on the help, and he delivers a beauty of a shot out to Wiley.
That's not final stats. I apologize.
Yeah, now that I think about it,
not that I have
2, but it was similar plays. Again, similar play calls on those sequences. Got a few more minutes, then we're going to hear from these coaches in the next semifinal, and then these guys can help get you ready for that semifinal. I need to get at least a little bit of a break here. What I found also interesting was, again, if Christopher Newport shoots their average, which is similar to average to Swarthmore, about a 48, 47% team, this is a different ball game. It's not like Swarthmore destroyed the captains in any way. They both played really well, and both defenses made life difficult for the other team. If you're Christopher Newport, you don't hang your heads in this game. You just didn't get shots to fall.
Well, I think sometimes you got to tip your cap and say the better team won the game. And,
agreed.
You know, after Christopher Newport processes this a little bit, kind of watch this one back, I think that's probably what they're going to say is, boy, is Swarthmore a good basketball team. Christopher Newport has had an unbelievable season to be one of the Final Four teams standing here. But as I watched those two teams, the better team won that basketball game in a very tight game.
Agreed. Oh, absolutely agree.
I think that Christopher Newport shot well on the shots that it got off, right? You're going to think about they were 0 for 9 in the shots that got blocked.
Yeah, true.
And that's a big difference.
Well, and you probably could argue, I mean, listen, Femi has a great look at the end of the first half at a shot off a deflection.
Right.
But it's Schaefer who closes the gap on him, gets an arm up and forces that shot to go higher, or I think that goes in. There's probably a half dozen to a dozen of those shots in this game that don't get put into the stat sheet. You know, you're driving on. Carter had a couple drives where he's going around, and Odell or Schaefer's just kind of going, you got to adjust now and make that a little bit of a different look. It was fascinating to watch.
Yeah, that's what coaches talk about all the time. You see, and we see the ones that are marked as blocks in the box score, but this box score does not reflect everything that was altered because of what's in the kid's head about what the defense is doing in front of him.
One other thing I thought of before I'll sign off for this show.
Show's not ending. He's just
signing off.
Yeah, before he sends us to the interviews.
To the interview. I thought what Kosmalski and his staff did to balance Odell and Schaefer with 3 fouls and then eventually 4 on Odell was terrific work while also going to the bench. So we didn't see Tucker after a beautiful spin move at the end of the first half, by the way. Whereas nothing against Krikorian and the captains, but they lost track of Ellis. And they put him in with 4 fouls. And unfortunately, bad luck was his 5th foul. Yeah. Great effort, just bad luck. But I thought what Kosmalski did in his staff to balance and manage Odell and Schaefer in that second half was pretty ingenious.
Well, and they're deeper, so they can do that. They have more options, whereas, you know, with CNU, I thought they had to gamble there and leave Cutch Ellis in the ball game. I know that there was like 8 minutes left. He had 4 fouls, but they were down 7-8 points.
I just remember seeing the sequence. The coaching staff didn't react to his foul. He did, and it made me think he knew he had 5. They didn't. They had lost that, but you may be right.
I think they were just saying, look, this is the national semifinal game, and he's our guy. But I agree. Swarthmore did a great job managing, but they have so much depth and interchangeable big guy parts that it makes it a little easier to do that. They did a wonderful job.
Quickly, final thoughts on that game before we get everybody ready for game number 2.
Well, I think it was obviously a fantastic game, and I was looking to see, you know, Swarthmore is the program that has been the up-and-comer now for a couple years. See if they could do it here on this different stage in a gigantic building with all the pressure on them. And I thought they did great, and that's what I was looking for. I thought for me this was the test of which of these teams is worthy of playing in the national title game. I think either of them was worthy of playing in the national title game, but SWAT came out on top.
Yeah, for me, you know, you can watch all the web streams you want, but until you see a team in person, I tell you, that Swarthmore team, that looks to me like a WIAC champion, a CCIW champion,
I think they
a
would do well in
NESCAP
both
champion.
conferences.
Those are conferences where the teams have good bigs, they have versatile 3s and 4s, they have good guard play, and Swarthmore has every bit of those pieces, and they will be very hard to beat tomorrow.
I agree with you. I agree. And they're, by the way, composed, too. They don't let things get
well
to
coached,
them.
too. Well coached.
Yeah, Kosmalski's done a great job with his program, and Cam Wiley, how far he has come, is also worth noting. All right, so we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll hear from the Oshkosh coach, and we'll hear from the Wheaton coach as they get ready to find out who's going to play Swarthmore in the championship game. Then Pat and Bob come back and break down and get you ready for game number 2. You're watching Hoopsville Courtside live from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Back with the coaches of game number 2 when we come back.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Back here on Hoopsville Courtside, leading you up to tonight's second national semifinal between Wheaton and UW Oshkosh. We're joined by Wheaton coach Mike Schauer. And first of all, Coach, congratulations on getting this team to the Final Four. What an accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you. Excited to be here, thankful to be here, and excited for the opportunity to see if we can win 2 more.
I heard you talk after the game, I think must have been the Marietta game, about how you feel more like, I'm going to use my term, like a caretaker of the men's basketball position, having been, the guy who is carrying on this legacy of, Bill Harris, who we knew well at D3Hoops.com and Lee Fun before that. What's it like, kind of carrying that legacy?
Yeah, it's a tremendous honor, and I appreciate the question because I really feel like this is about something way bigger than our current team. And for me personally, I played at Wheaton. I put the jersey on, and I put the jersey on at a time when we weren't very good and was on the team when Bill Harris came in 91, 92. And for those who don't know, Coach is a former Marine during the Vietnam War era, and he coached us like he was a former Marine during the Vietnam War era. So it was hard, and he demanded a lot of us and really changed the culture of our whole program. And got us to, I remember the first time we made the NCAA tournament with Nate Frank as our best player and actually losing to Hanover. And I remember thinking, national rankings and NCAA tournament, that was foreign to us at the time when he first got here. And so, to find a goal of his and ours was to get here, to get to a Final Four. And as I said in other times, I sort of wish this was him. I think I think he had teams that deserved to be here. He certainly was and is, a better coach than I am, and everything I do reflects him. So it's just an honor to be here, and I see it as just because I'm a Wheaton guy. This is really more about Wheaton basketball for me than it is about my coaching resume or even this particular team.
We saw you, for example, in Las Vegas in the middle of a 12-13 season, coming off a year where you guys won 5 games. What's it been like trying to, kind of rebuild and take the arc of this team back to where it is now?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember that interview, and I actually, we lost to a very good Hardin-Simmons team, and I actually walked out of Las Vegas. I don't know that I believed I had a team that could get to the Final Four, but I knew I had a team that could get back to national rankings and the NCAA tournament. And I didn't know if it would be the next year or the year after, but I could tell with the most of the core of this team were freshmen and sophomores on that team. And to watch us starting to learn and grow about how to compete against teams like Hardin-Simmons or in our league, that team went 8-8 in the CCIW. We had a couple home wins against nationally ranked opponents that year. I could just see it building. And so at that point, I knew we had sort of turned a corner, and if we could just stay healthy and kind of putting some pieces around Aston, I knew we'd have a chance to get back to the NCAA tournament. Would I have predicted to be standing here? Probably not. But I knew we would have a chance to get in. And once you get in, who knows?
Yeah. In those games, Aston scored 16 and 21. And at this point, that's going to be what he might have at the under 4.
Yeah, he is the stretch he's on here. I've been around, Division III basketball for a long time, and the stretch he's on really over the last few weeks is unlike anything that any of us have seen. And, thankfully he gets to put the jersey on for me a couple more times.
So tell us a little bit about the rest of the team. We've talked a lot about Aston Francis in the last month or so.
Yeah, I think the guys did a good job of representing some of that in terms of, Aston gets all the attention, and he just is putting up numbers that are ridiculous and thus draws that attention. But, Aston's clearly the best offensive player I've coached, but Luke Peters would be in the conversation for one of the best defensive players I've ever coached. And he does a lot of things that the average basketball fan doesn't really recognize, but has as much to do with winning in many ways as Aston's 34 a night. So we have really versatile players. Najwan Spencer, Jay Spencer, is just a very versatile player. He's involved in usually guarding the other team's best forward, but he does all sorts of little things that people that don't necessarily appreciate the game. He's so versatile. We can run plays to him. We can have him stretch the floor because he's such a good shooter. We run a lot of plays where he's the passer, a lot of plays where he's the screener. He's got a high basketball IQ. Big difference for us, too, was when Luke Anthony joined us. He's provided us with some offense that we didn't have. He's a big guard who can make shots, made it a little harder for teams to double Aston because he's such a good shooter. So we're, and then we've got this group of seniors who knows what it's like to be on the other end of this spectrum, to be a 5-win team. And the work that's involved between there and here is significant. And, quite candidly, Pat, a lot of guys would have left or quit after those seasons and tried to find greener pastures, and those guys just stayed and really took it upon themselves to rebuild what we had before that season. And to say we've done that obviously is a little bit of an understatement. Again, I don't know that we ever thought we'd be here, but we wanted to get ourselves back to where people were talking about Wheaton basketball again from a national perspective.
You guys played Oshkosh way back at the beginning of the season, back in November. How have you guys changed, progressed, grown since that first meeting?
Yeah, we're actually fairly different. Again, when we played him, Spencer Peterson was just coming off football, and so it just rejoined us for about a week or two. And I think he played 11 minutes in that game. Obviously, he's a much more significant part of what we're doing now. We were starting 3 forwards at that time. We're now starting 3 guards. Luke Anthony didn't play in that game. So we're very different, as are they. The difference between playing them again and, say, playing Augie again is Augie was much more recent and is a much more common opponent. We play them, obviously, every year.
We see them on film all the time.
We see them on film all the time. So Oshkosh is that I don't know that we're going to do a whole lot with that game. I think we're just going to kind of approach it a little bit new. We're familiar with personnel, but because we're both in the central region and I'm involved with some of the committee work, I'd seen Oshkosh play quite a bit. So we're pretty familiar with them. But I don't know that we'll dig too far into that previous game. It was so long ago, and we're just so very different, both of us.
You mentioned Spencer Peterson, so I have to ask, what's the health situation for you guys like going into this weekend?
Yeah, so he's practiced this week. Today's practice will be, this will be important. My anticipation is he'll try to give it a go.
All right, that's Mike Schauer, the head coach of Wheaton. His team here at the Division III National Semifinals. We'll be back with Matt Lewis of UW Oshkosh in just a minute.
Big shots. Big dunks. This trophy is not given. It must be earned. The 2019 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 15th and 16th at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum Arena in Fort Wayne.
With his third triple.
Visit ncaa.com/tickets and secure your seats today.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
Back on Hoopsville Courtside here as we get you ready for the second national semifinal between Wheaton College and UW Oshkosh. Joined by Matt Lewis, the head coach of the Titans of Oshkosh. First of all, congratulations on getting you guys this far.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been an exciting year for us, and the goal was to get back here to Fort Wayne to the Final Four, and now that we're here, we're just trying to enjoy every moment of it. It goes by quick once you get here, so you got to just try and slow down and enjoy it while you're here.
There's been a lot of talk about the first meeting between your two programs, obviously, and that was way back in November. And in a lot of cases, you throw that game out anyway because a lot of things have changed. But more specifically for you, that's your second game as a collegiate head coach, and now this would be your 31st. So what do you take from those intervening 28 games?
They went by really fast. Is one thing. It's hard to believe we're already to this point, but I've learned a lot in the last 29 games in between there. I hope our guys have learned a lot over the past few months. We can take some things away from that game in November. I mean, it's not something that you completely throw out the window, but we also can't base what we're going to do on Friday solely off of a game back from November because both teams have evolved on both sides of the basketball.
Your guys in the news conference on Thursday talked about struggling on defense and kind of, figuring out some things over the course of the early part of the season.
Yeah, Adam hit it on the head. Adam Fravert did when he just discussed, how undisciplined we were. We weren't in great stances early in the year, and we did some undisciplined things in terms of fouling guys and taking chances and just kind of not who we are. And so we've been really focused on that throughout the year. It's one of those things at Division III when you don't get to coach guys all summer and in the fall, you've got to rebuild some of those habits on the defensive side. The offensive side's a little easier because those guys can go work on their games, but you always have to reinstill the defensive focus early in the season.
How has it been different being the head coach? And you talked about moving one seat to the left, but I think there's a little more than that.
The conversations you have with people change a little bit. Sometimes as the assistant, you just get to be the good friend, the good cop a lot of times. As the head coach, sometimes you have to have the tough conversations. And then you have to deal with some others across campus that maybe you don't as an assistant, or if you did, the topic of that conversation, the tone of that conversation changes. So some of those things are different. But our guys have done a tremendous job. They've respected me from day one. I'm excited that we're able to get back here this year in year one. And we're going to try and make the most of it while we're here.
Talk about the regular season for you guys. Obviously, in the WIAC, like a handful of other leagues across the country, it is really a battle night in and night out. And you guys came through, winning the conference championship, maybe not getting the automatic bid, but having a really successful regular season.
Yeah, one of our goals, we don't talk about them a ton on a daily basis, but we all knew we wanted to win the regular season WIAC championship. Hadn't been done in over 40 years in terms of outright. We'd shared the title in between there, but we hadn't won the thing since the late 70s. So that was a goal of ours. And when we did it, we celebrated it, we enjoyed it. Now the conference tournament didn't go the way we wanted it to, but we didn't win the conference tournament last year, and we made it back to the national championship game. So we didn't look at that game when we lost in the semifinal and freak out. We just knew, okay, we did it last year. We can get back there. We just got to refocus and correct a few things and make a run. Fortunately, we've been able to get back here.
When you come here and you get in the building, a pretty big building, what is what's focus on in practice? What are the things that you're trying to do to get ready?
Yeah, need to get a lot of shots up, no doubt. New building, just get guys in a rhythm, get them comfortable. Have to have a defensive focus. So we did a few things that we do on the defensive end. Offensively, do a few things, and then we wrap it up with some shots. We pride ourselves on having a lot of fun while we go through it. So we tried to enjoy it. Even though we were trying to get better in our 90 minutes on the court on Thursday, we really wanted to enjoy while we were here.
And I have to ask, who's going to guard Aston Francis?
Daryl Sims, our athletic director. He was really tough in the trenches 15, 20 years ago. So.
He's big. I don't know how mobile Daryl is.
He's sneaky. He's sneaky.
I was going to suggest a box and two. What do you think?
Do we get a sixth guy? If we get a sixth, I'll take him. But we'll do our best. We'll do our best. We believe in who we are.
It's Matt Lewis, head coach of UW Oshkosh. His Titans take on Wheaton. We'll be back courtside in just a moment with more.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
And welcome back courtside here at Hoopsville Courtside, the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Here as we get you ready for the second national semifinal here at the Division III Men's Basketball Final Four. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'm Pat Coleman. He's Bob Quillman as we get you getting ready for this game. We just heard from Mike Schauer. We just heard from Matt Lewis. Talk just a little bit in general about this game. Obviously, we're going to be talking about, and we have been talking about Aston Francis, and Coach Lewis did not really commit to to trying to figure out how to guard him. I think I threw out a box and two. I didn't think, just in case. What would you do in this case?
What I would do, Pat, is I would start the game if I'm the Titans, just playing my normal defense and playing Aston with my best perimeter defender, of course helping on him. You got to get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah.
But what I wouldn't do is play a defense that I haven't played all year. I wouldn't try anything crazy to start out. Let's see how he's shooting it. Look, this is a guy that relies on jump shooting, and it wouldn't be the craziest thing ever if on this stage, in front of all these people and this crowd, that a guy had a tough shooting night. I would make him make a few shots early before I did something different than my base defense.
Let me just take a look at fans filling in here. You see all the orange out there. Those are Wheaton fans in orange shirts. A lot of them say Thunderstruck. It's been certainly a striking couple of weeks for them. I think you're absolutely right though about Francis. There's certainly the possibility that he might come out cold. I'm not sure he seems super even keel, not likely to come out tight, but it's a big building.
Now I was watching him in warm-ups, not that that's ever a sign of really anything, but I mean, he wasn't touching. The net wasn't moving, and these weren't air balls. Right? Yeah. So I mean, he was just. It's funny watching him go about his routine because he takes the exact kind of shots he does in the game, and those little spin around, step back fadeaways. And I'm telling you, he wasn't missing anything. Yeah. But yeah, I would make him make a few shots before I got extra creative defensively.
Here's what I've noticed, and watching mostly from live stats and sometimes on live video over the course of the past couple of weeks, is he will go through stretches where stuff's not falling.
Oh yeah.
Or also stretches where stuff's falling for him, but it's not falling for everybody else, and so he's got 17 and they're down like 36-25, but that doesn't last. It never seems to last.
No, and the thing is, he's the ultimate scorer in that he can be 0 of his last 6, and he thinks that 7th one is going in. He will not stop shooting, and that's just how his mind is programmed. Nor is Mike Schauer wanting him to stop shooting.
Yeah.
What I'm interested to see is how Wheaton comes out, because against Augustana in the round of 16, Wheaton came out as the Wheaton team. He got other people involved early. Against Marietta in the round of 8, it was the Aston Francis show from the buzzer to the first, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I really think it'd be better, and we'll get into this in a second, I think it'd be better for Wheaton to kind of come out in that more balanced approach. We'll see.
Yeah, it's if he's just basically putting the team on his shoulders and willing them to the Final Four, and there's certainly a possibility that he could try to do the same here and will them to the title game.
I would at least give my teammates a chance to see, okay, where are these jump shots? How are things looking? Can we get Peters to the basket a couple times?
Yeah.
I just want to see what my teammates are doing. And you know what? If they're a little bit tight, if they're not playing well, then he might need to take over.
So when we talked with him in the interview, which was in our first pregame show, Francis talked about some of the stuff that we got to see and witness him with his teammates, with Luke Peters, and with Anajuan Spencer in the news conference here on Thursday afternoon. And it was just really fun to see the three of them interact, super loose, super having a great time.
One thing that a friend I saw here, I haven't seen in a little while, told me, he said, you know what, the great thing about Wheaton is you've got this guy that scores 33 points a game, takes almost all their shots. But the rest of the Wheaton team completely buys into that.
Yeah.
They want to get him the ball. They want, and it's the only way something like this would work out.
Right.
That chemistry that you just mentioned in the press conference, that's what you see on the floor. Those guys love Aston Francis, and they have no issue with the fact that he's the guy.
On the other side, talk about Oshkosh for a minute. Of course, the Titans come into this game at 27-3, regular season champions of the WIAC, which is those two legitimate conferences, obviously, here on display in this second game. Matt Lewis, we spent a bit of time with him, and we saw it a few minutes ago. He's a young guy. He'd been an assistant for several years before Pat Yucum left after taking them to the national title game. It has been, for any new head coach, it is a huge learning curve for how to be. He talked about moving down one seat. Now he's the guy who's allowed to stand up,
right,
and the officials don't get to tell him to sit down. But there's a lot of stuff you got to do.
He's done a wonderful job. This is probably supposed to be a tougher transition than it's been.
Yeah.
They're the champion of the Wisconsin Intercollegiate, which is a powerhouse conference. So the champion of that league, when they come here, you probably say they're the favorite, right? They've hung the banner so many times. Such a different team than Wheaton because Oshkosh is so balanced.
Yeah.
They have great sides. They have great guards. They spread the scoring around.
Yep.
Such contrasting styles in this basketball game, but the Titans are loaded.
Yeah, Ben Boots, obviously the guy who we talked to in our previous pregame show, Britt Witchow. If you've watched these guys, these are names you're not going to be surprised by. Adam Fravert. Connor Duax has come on really strong for them this year, moving into the starting lineup about 8 or 10 games into the season. Once was the lesser Duax brother in the WIAC, now soon for sure, because Robert is graduating
right now.
Right, exactly. He'll be the best, I think. And then Jack Flynn is a guy, a big 6'8" center. Matt Lewis joked about trying to call him a stretch 5. I don't know if I buy that, but these are the guys whose names you'll hear a lot.
We just watched Swarthmore, and they looked so big against Christopher Newport. And I told someone between games here, if Swarthmore was stacked up against Oshkosh, they wouldn't look that big because Oshkosh is bigger. So that's how big these Titans are, right? They have great size and such good balance. And senior guards, right? Ben Boots and Brett Witchow. What a great backcourt they have. And then you've got the young kid Duax who's come on here in the second half of the season. Oshkosh has every piece you need to win a national championship.
Bob, it's time for keys to the game.
Well, I think, I think Wheaton getting other non-Francis guys going early. I think they've got to get...
Not non-Franciscans?
Yes, I like that. I think Wheaton's got to find some options there. I think if you're Oshkosh, you pound it inside. You have such a size advantage. If you see Oshkosh scoring easy baskets inside, that's a good thing for the Titans.
Yeah. And how about on the UW Oshkosh side?
Yeah, Oshkosh, again, I think you got to look defensively there. Is like, how do they guard Aston Francis? If Francis starts going off and they have to commit, they're going to have problems guarding Wheaton's other players. So to me, the key for them is just great perimeter defense straight up with some help on Aston Francis.
Last thing before we go, we saw Spencer Peterson get hurt last weekend. Mike Schauer was, I'm not saying he was non-committal. He was felt pretty sure that Peterson was going to be ready to play. I've heard a ton of coach speak in 20 years. What did you see in warm-ups?
He looks like he's going to play, although he's not starting. That's clear. He's not in the starting lineup. He's got a lot of stuff on that left knee, and he was moving around pretty well. But, boy, they could use his size and body in there against this big Oshkosh team. If he doesn't play, that's a real blow to Wheaton, I believe.
So that second semifinal is going to tip off in just a couple of minutes. Starting lineup's about to be announced right here behind us here at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. You can watch that on NCAA.com. Scroll down on this page if you're watching it right on the D3Hoops.com page, or go to D3Hoops.com and pick the link off of the front page or off of our scoreboard or off of a many myriad of places that we populate those broadcast links. So it'll be Brendan Gulick and Dave McHugh on the call once again for NCAA.com. For my partner, Bob Quillman. For Dave McHugh earlier, I'm Pat Coleman, and thank you for joining us here on Hoopsville Courtside. Thanks also to Blue Frame Technologies, the NABC, the NCAA, and everybody here at Fort Wayne, Indiana.
And guard 6'4" senior from